never ever have enough time to play it all. You know everybody wants to...
Hello and welcome again to Otter Creek in Rio Grande. I believe in the last video I made mention of maybe creating a jig to work with my various different fast track turnouts. I'm still kind of thinking about what kind of jig I might want to make. I don't want to go down too many rabbit holes. A good jig will save you a lot of time if you're going to be doing a repeated action that you need the jig for. And I will be making a lot of turnouts. I'm just not sure whether or not it's going to be worth it in the long run to test everyone with a train. I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and kind of just test these with a tester electronically and make sure that, I don't have any dead shorts in the rail, and wire everything up and see how it goes from there. And if I have lots of problems, then I might consider doing a live test jig for locomotives later. Right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a jig just for laying in extra pieces of PC tie. You can see the Fast Tracks jig for the number 6 has a lot of rail, and this is even short as compared to the plan, I believe. I think the actual template that you get offline goes out like another ½ inch or full inch beyond this. So there's just not a lot of support there. So I absolutely want to put in a cross tie here, a PC tie to give it strength. And so what I want to do is I want to make this a place you can put in every one, because I plan on building them all virtually the same. You can always make them shorter, but in this case, I need that extra length for the proper spacing in my yard. And so I left them, at least a little bit long for the spacing. So here's what I'm doing. I'm gonna glue in some stuff in here, and you can see I've got some track spikes here. These are actual, I think, in scale. I don't know, maybe they're not a scale, but they're track spikes. And a long time ago, I created this tool, which is a slide hammer. It's just some coat hanger that was terribly soldered onto some brass tube. I got one of the wife's hair ties, and you just pull back and let go. So works pretty cool. See if I can do this without my hand being in the way. And I'm not going to bury him, because this is just to hold it in place while I glue some wood around it so that it will hold it in place as I get ready to create the jig. This is the jig I made to solder in the extra tie at the end of the number 6. It's nothing special. And another thing I can do with it is I can drill the holes where I want them to be spiked into the wood if I choose to spike them into the wood. And then I may go ahead and do something similar on this end for a number 8. But really the number 8s, they don't have all this length beyond the frog that you have to worry about. So that's that. And now let's take a look at what I'm doing over here. So there's, 100 different ways that you can lay track. And all that's really important, in my opinion, is that you do it in such a way that everything's nice and solid and you don't have any funny kinks going on, and your rail matches, from where your joints are. So what I'm doing is I've got spikes down here near the throwout bar, and then I got spikes up here. So I'm in 4 different locations. I'm solidly on the plywood. And the idea is that once I get all of this in here, nice and solid and exactly where it needs to be, I'm going to come in here and make sure that my points are dead center where they need to be, And on most of my turnouts, I haven't even put the drill hole through the throwout bar. And I will go ahead and drill through there. And then I'm not gonna go all the way through the wood yet. I'm just gonna leave a nice solid mark and then mark this so I'll know which one of these are throw bar ties. And then I will know exactly where my throw bar ties are on the wood. And because I haven't glued anything down yet, I can come in and pull these up very gently, remove the whole ladder, and then come in with a pilot hole and then drill pilot holes through exactly where they need to be. And then those pilot holes will be seen on the underneath side. And then I can draw lines from point A to point B, because I will probably also mark a pilot hole on the straight through track, just so I can align the tortoise properly on the bottom side. And then I can always come in later, put cork on top, and then I will have the hole on the bottom side. I can run, you know, something through, drill bit or whatever, that will reveal the hole that I need for the tortoise. That's my thought right now. So this is what it's looking like, you know, and the whole key to me, and I don't know if I can get this to focus, you know, is you want to make sure that your track is running the way you want it to, where everything's a straight line that's supposed to be a straight line, and you don't have anything weird going on. Like you can see right here, as this track, we got a nice tangent track through here, and then you can see this, it actually dog legs to the right. You don't want that, because you're gonna go right and then left. So before I make any of that permanent, I will make sure, and this one's looking pretty good here, where there's just a nice gentle curve going the direction you want, not back and forth. So that's what I'm trying to do, is just get everything exactly where it needs to be and then nailing it down. I did run my caboose through here. I've got my 1, 2, 3 blocks holding the throw bars over, and it runs through pretty smooth. There's no problems there. I guess I just won't know whether or not an engine will run through nice until I actually do it for the first time. So now I'm gonna go down at this end and create what needs to be created down here and figure out exactly where everything is, and then do the same thing. I probably won't make this permanent until I get this radius here figured out. I wanna make sure that this top radius is exactly the way I want it going into the ladder on that end. And that's gonna be based on this curve. So I'm gonna get started on that. crosses, wood pegs, okay, yeah, I can call them pegs because that's essentially what they are. All right, I'll take a second and show you these Fast Tracks space gauges if you haven't ever seen these before. Kind of a cool thing. They have these wooden pegs that go into the space gauge, and the gauge at its narrowest point on these particular ones is 1 inch on the narrow side and then 2 inches on the far side. So the way it works is you put track in here, your track gauge, and then your peg fits in there, and then this peg goes in here on the other side, and then you can slide them back and forth and get the spacing that you want. And what I did is I just kind of went in and made a mark at 1.5 because 1.5 is what I decided to go with here. The only thing I will say about them is the pegs themselves, right out of the box or the package, they don't really fit at all into your track gauge here, or your quick sticks, or whatever they call these things. Sweep sticks, I think, maybe, I don't remember. But so you have to sand them, and even when sanding them, you have to sand quite a little bit to get them go in there. And really, if you sand far enough that they fit in there good, you end up delaminating one of the layers of thin plywood on there. But they're still functional. They just probably could have done it just a little bit better than they did. The most worthless animal known to mankind. All right, I've got this end of the yard ladder all tacked in. I've got this switch here exactly where I want it, and all of the track going back this way where I want it. So the next step is going to be coming in, getting my throw out bars exactly where I want them, and then drilling and making a mark for a pilot hole. So that's going to be the next thing I do. And of course, you know, as long as I've got this where I want it, that where I want it, all of this where I want it, and then I've got my radius figured out, and then you can't see it, but I've got a line back here where all of that track's going to go. So I've got all that figured out. So I'm confident that all of my radiuses and trackage is going to work the way I want. I'm not going to mess with cutting any track in through here until after I get my cork laid. So, and that probably won't be until this weekend if I can even find time to do it then, because I'm taking the wife out to look at some fall foliage in southeast Oklahoma. But that's a whole nother story. I'm going to get started on doing some of this other stuff now. One of the things that I did early on that I didn't show anyone, and it might be kind of important if you go to do this kind of thing, is I did, after I got, you can see how these two turnouts are really close together. I did go and make sure that there would be room for the Tortoises to operate both of those switches. And you can see it's pretty close, but I think it's going to be okay. I'm certainly going to give it my best college try, and then if it doesn't actually work, then I don't know what I'll do. But I did not fail to consider that as I was designing and putting things together. All right, you can see I've removed all of the track, and I do have my pilot holes drilled all the way through the wood so I can find the holes on the other side. And I went ahead and drew lines where appropriate to make sure that the tortoises are going to line up like they're supposed to. So the next step is going to be going ahead and removing everything off of the wood and then mounting the tortoises on the bottom side after I transfer whatever lines I need to make sure I know where they're supposed to be. Now, I mentioned in an earlier video, in my track planning, I think, that this tabletop would actually be higher than my joists beneath it. So you can see where these two tortoises come out to where I have this aligned, that wouldn't work. And so I've planned for that. And I originally thought I was gonna have, 4 inches is what I would need, but I've actually measured this now, and it looks more like 4 3/8 is where I'll end up at, because the top of this ribbon plug makes this be higher than 4 inches. So, and that's not gonna be any big deal. It's just gonna be, the lower this is, the more grade my trains will have to make as they go around the layout. And then, of course, the opposite of that is the higher this is, the less grade they'll have, but I also might end up with less distance between this and the shelf up above it. So there's kind of a happy medium there that I'm trying to get. So all that planning is important, and I'll point out one more thing. If you happen to actually watch any of my building videos from, like a year or 2 years ago, you'll know that I planned on these being higher for the purposes of being above the tabletop here. So because I figured there'd be lots of things to be plugged in. That didn't really turn out exactly the way I had wanted it to. And it's not gonna be any big deal, but you can see if I raise this to 4 3/8, that's gonna end up with the tabletop here coming across about here on the plug-in. So again, it's not gonna be that big of a deal because I've got plenty of room there. I took my track gauge here and kind of figured out what the distance would be. And I don't even know that I need that much distance. I just know that I can comfortably cut away this much of the wood here so that if I need to run something down, I can get like a 90-degree plug. Because I think I will have a multi-plug adapter along the bottom here somewhere when it's all said and done. So just, showing you my whole thought process as I move forward. process of making sure I've got these tortoises where they need to be, especially these two that are in close conjunction. And when I marked my lines and I put the tortoises on the lines that I marked, they came out in a really bad position, so much so that kind of the foot of one tortoise was laying over the top of the hole for the actuator of the other tortoise. And I thought, you know, it shouldn't have looked like that, because it didn't look like that when I was looking at it on the layout with the track on the other side. So I thought, well, I better double check and make sure I've got everything lined up like it's supposed to. So I went ahead and brought in all my turnouts, turned them upside down and put them on the board and aligned them with the holes. And sure enough, the tangent of this line goes through here. And this line was not originally marked. And so it was throwing, I don't know how many degrees that is, but that's, 3 to 5 degrees maybe. But just that little bit of that line being off of the tangent and how it was aligning with the tortoises were throwing things off considerably. So I'm glad I did come in and put my track back up there upside down so I could see what was going on. So this is what I'm talking about. If you can, I know there's a shadow in there, but this is where the hole for the throwout bar for this tortoise is. And you can see I've got it lined up on this line because I thought it needed to be on that. I mistakenly thought that this line was the tangent. So that's pretty close conjunction there. But the second you actually align it the way it should be aligned, with this as the tangent, and then this one here, you can see you end up with a lot more room and things are going to jive much better. And that's the important thing, is that these actuators run perpendicular with the track so that you're moving your throwout bar exactly left and right of your non-diverging rails. So I think I've got where my tortoises need to be all figured out. Everything's looking pretty good. I'm not sure what the next process is. It's probably going to be going ahead and putting the cork on the other side before I drill out any larger holes for the tortoises. It's late and I don't want to, rush anything. So I'm going to step away for a few days, take a break, wait till next weekend. And I'm pretty sure I've got enough content for another video. So that's what I'm going to do. Probably do some video editing tonight and get up another video for you guys. So stay tuned and please subscribe.